It is, I'll give it to you. That's perfect. Yeah, because that's really nice. Alrighty, guys. You good? You can learn? All right, so day 2. Anybody have any fun thoughts from yesterday that they thought of overnight? No. There's a lot of fun thoughts. Well, sometimes, listen, after this class is over, you guys are going to kind of decompress over the next couple of days. So if there's any questions or insights you have, you're always welcome to let me know. You know, I know, so my accelerator program, that's the online program I was telling you about. Fred signed up for it last night, so thank you, Fred. If that's something of interest to you guys, I've shared it with a bunch of you. It'll end up
12 months from when you sign up.
12 months from when you sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's on a yearly special now. It's $4.95 instead of $7.49. You get a free 7-day trial too, so you can kind of see what you think. Just either way, I'll help you guys. I don't, you know, that's just the official sales pitch, you know. But day 2, I would like to get more into movement stuff. How does everybody feel about that?
Yep, absolutely.
Let me ask you this: would you like to start with shooting on the move or harder movement? Harder movement, like just position to position movement, hard.
So
I'm just,
I don't know. I'm throwing this out.
Please.
I'm fresh. I'd almost rather get the running over now.
That's what I. Quite honestly, I'm gonna be 100% honest. That's what I had in mind.
Okay.
I figure everybody's fresh in the morning. We could do position entry work where we're actually moving from position to position and working on that skill. I think that's the better choice for fresh legs.
Yep.
Shooting on the move is fun and it's nice. I figured if we're gonna do that, maybe it would have been a warm up, but like I kind of agree with what Jess is saying. So my thoughts are.
we can always do that as a cool down.
Well, yeah. So the way I have the day.
Yesterday by like 4 o'clock.
Oh man.
Most people are like, I mean, most people by 3-4 o'clock are. They don't have much left. So my thoughts today, right? We'll do position entry stuff. We'll do some position exit stuff, meaning like just how to start getting your body out of position. Also, we'll do some randomized work with like what we had here, where we just kind of vary the target order upon entering a target. Shooting on the move, and then after that, we'll kind of set up like a stage of some sorts, and we'll play around for the rest of the day. Does that sound unreasonable? Good. Okay. All right.
How about asking, is there anything that we haven't done or he hasn't talked about that anybody wants to cover?
That's a great point.
So I know the occlusion thing came up yesterday. I mean,
Well, yeah. Well, why don't we use?
but I know there was others. Okay.
Why don't we use that this time before we start to discuss anything like that, right? So occlusion. What specifically about occlusion are you guys?
I've been running occlusion
Uh-huh.
for like the last, I don't know, year and a half, year. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I love it. So I'm personally comfortable with
Mhm.
it. I did do a little modification, trying to cut down some glare on mine yesterday.
So are we talking? So are you talking about just explaining it in general? Is that kind of
benefits? How about the benefits
Okay.
of occlusion?
Yeah,
Why
I've never
would we
used
do
it, so
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe I'll do it on my own. I mean, I don't want to take a big
I mean, I just started yesterday. I put the
all you got to do is take a couple pasters and put it
couple
over the top?
pasters,
Well,
I put it on the front here.
But what am I supposed to get out of it? Like,
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Great. Okay. So it sounds like you guys are looking at like an overview of what dot occlusion is. So most of the time, what we talked about in the beginning of transitions, where people's eyes tend to follow the gun too much and they tend to get too dot focused. Occlusion forces you to put your vision out on the target, right? With a red dot, the dot itself is only visible from the one eye that you're looking through, right? You can't see it from the other eye physically. So the benefit to it was you keep both eyes open, right? And where the dot is on target, that's where it is regardless. With iron sights, because you get two images, sometimes you can get the images mixed up. And like in the past, when I first did iron sights, like I would have the rear sight from one eye with the front sight from the other eye when I kept both eyes wide open. And that caused impact shifts, right? Now, you have to teach your brain which image to pay attention to, okay? You guys hold the gun on target with both eyes open, you typically see two guns, right? if you kind of pay attention to it, right? When you're actually under stress, like your brain tells you what to pay attention to and it turns it off. But if I stood here and I'm looking at Tom right now, I have my finger on your nose. I know which fingers, like I know which eye I'm aiming with, my right eye. That's the inside image. I have two fingers that I see right now. But I know the inside image is the correct one. And that's the one that I'm pointing with, right? If you ever get, go ahead, you gonna say
Do you
something?
agree with the concept behind what you're explaining?
Feel free to share.
Benden aiming concept.
You're talking, I've heard of this
Benden is the guy, one of the founders of Trigicon,
with the ACOG. Yep.
and he's talking about
Sure, yeah.
the dominant eye seeing the dot, the non-dominant eye seeing the target, and your brain merges the image.
Mhm.
But the only issue with that, and there's another kind of occlusion too, just so you're aware. You've got people that are right eye dominant, left eye dominant. Are you familiar with cyclopean dominance?
I feel like I've heard of it.
I'm serious.
I feel like I've heard of
All
it,
joking aside, it's
but-
a real thing.
but share what that
People's
means.
brains don't know what to do, so you might run across students that even with the occlusion, they still have issues. And if you have them stick their thumb up on your nose,
Mhm.
and their thumb, from your perception,
It's
is kind
dead
of in
center.
the middle of their
Yeah.
forehead, you might want to work with occluding what you suspect is the dominant eye on the inboard side of the shooting glasses on an angle.
Interesting. I like that.
Train the brain. There's a book I'll recommend to you, Red Dot
Please.
Mastery by Ogre. I'll send it to you. if
Okay.
I get your email.
Yeah, please. You'll
He
get my
talks
email.
about it. Mike Ox.
Okay.
What's his name? I can't think of his name.
I don't know.
If I say it, you'd know it. But anyway, it's cyclopean dominance. So that's kind of the what's going on behind what you're trying to explain.
Sure.
The first red dot, occluded red dot, as a matter of fact, was in 1970.
How crazy is that?
Or 75.
What's old is new.
It was in the Sante Vietnam
Mhm.
prisoner of war raid.
Okay.
Special forces had a tube taped to the top of their car-15s with the fixed carry handle. It was an occluded dot in a tubular form. I have a picture of it on my phone.
That's
One
so
of my
cool.
students had one. And they were hunting for POWs or bad guys, gun up, eyes open, and the occluded dot, when they raised it, merged with their non-dominant eye
Mhm.
on the target, and then
And that's what I was going to say. So going back to it, right? Inside image for if your dominant eye is the right eye, it's the left image. Left eye, it's the right image. Under stress, your brain starts to tell you what to pay attention to.
that's the book.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to take a picture. Get off my lawn.
Do you remember the Sante raid?
No.
That's
Christ, I'm only 63.
Ron, I remember it like you.
that's a
Like it was
cool
Well,
one.
I was a young man. I was too
I love
young
that.
to be in the Vietnam War, but you can look it up. I mean, it's
So
it was a pretty badass raid. It just turned out to be a dry hole.
I'll
I
have to
actually
look.
do, I just
I'll have to
wanted to
look
say
it up. Yeah. So getting back to it,
Sorry.
right? Your brain tells you what to pay attention to. Iron sight's a little different. Red dot, you only have the dot from one eye. Like you can only see it in one eye. So most people want to get fixated on this little bouncing ball of information, right? With a lot of movements, right? So they want to pull their vision back in there and look at that. What happens is when I start staring at if I'm looking at my finger and I'm trying to transition effectively, it doesn't work that well. Here's a good little thing to give you, like a little exercise, right? If you hold your finger out like this, right, and you look at the whatever target, you pick a target, right? Now, put your other hand over your shoulder, and every time you cross, snap your finger while looking at the target,
Oh man, this is takes too much skill for me.
right? Right? Now,
You put it over the wrong
same
side.
thing, right? You have your finger out in front, right? Now look at the other finger and try to do the same thing. It's not as easy. So that's the concept, target focus versus dot.
Why wouldn't you always?
Why would you know
Why
what?
wouldn't you always occlude? Why
Always.
instructions?
Yeah, so occlusion
Yeah.
helps you be able to focus on the target.
Yes.
And largely what Ron was saying is is the thing that I figured out as I was using it.
Yes.
I figured out that it helps the non-dominant eye meet the dominant eye at the
Correct.
target, right? It's
What's
strength.
the but? Is that assuming your dominant eye is your shooting? Right?
It should be the same.
Mine's not. like
It
I'm
shouldn't
super
matter.
lefty dominant. Like
Mhm.
I can't. When I shoot rifle scopes,
Mhm.
sometimes I have to put on an eye.
Okay. I guess that does depend on how strong the dominance is. For me, when I shoot left-handed, I shoot left eye. Like I trained myself to do that, and
kind of
I
just
was
got
okay.
used to bringing it to center.
Which with a pistol, if you're cross-eye dominant, yeah, you just do that. But it shouldn't make a difference. Like your non-dominant eye should still strengthen to meet the dominant eye on target. For me, I noticed my right eye would be very good at getting on target, but my left eye would kind of float. And that was what I was seeing when it came to occlusion for me. Both of them started pinning on the target at the same spot, and that caused improvements.
What's the downside?
Huh?
What's the downside? Why wouldn't you do it?
Well, for one, red dots weren't like you have an optic window, like you can look through it. Right, you can look through it, but remember, understand this is a training aid also. It's not meant to be, it's training wheels. It doesn't have to be all, you don't have to have it on all the time. I tell people, so I shot it.
Why did you stop using it during your matches? You said that you were using occlusion for the whole.
Well, occlusion does have a downside in the sense of like, I think Josh was saying, if you're going around a barricade and this eye is covered, now you don't see anything. Right, and I've had that happen to me. That's again, you're occluding your vision, right, in the interest of gaining training value, right? Also, occlusion is good when the sun is bright and the sun is shining in, so it does help in that regard too. But it's not meant to. It doesn't have to be all the time. Like you're occluding your vision at that point, and that causes. Like there's no reason to do that if you are fully target focused all the time. You know what I mean? Good.
So yesterday I went occluded all day, and that's the longest I had ever trained. I noticed at the end of the day, and maybe it was just eye fatigue or things like that, I wasn't really getting, like I just saw a black, in other words, the eyes weren't merging as the day went on.
If you just saw a black thing and not really the target anymore, that means this eye is now coming in here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what that's teaching you in a simple sense.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Tom?
So I guess just starting out, so the thing I should be looking for is, so when the gun comes on target.
It should appear as if there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's magical. It's really good.
It really is interesting. It's interesting. Hold on. What do we have? We're going to do this to you right now because you have a cover?
Yeah.
You're covering the front. You're not covering the back. Yeah, so put it on.
So at the end of the day, if you're not drinking.
All right. Yeah, I'm not going to do it today, but yesterday.
Come on over here. Oh!
It's like a little $20 widget. I just broke it.
So we'll do.
Tape is cheaper. And
Yeah.
There, watch this.
Actually, it's got some.
I don't know whether you're right eye dominant.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
Both eyes open, then you close one. Like,
You can also do that. You could do that. You could put the blue tape on.
it does not move.
So here.
It's my
Yeah,
right
come here.
eye, so that
Go over here.
means my right eye is-
Over here. No, you don't need a mag. I don't want you to hold the gun. All right. So aim on target. Look at the target, and notice how you can be aware of this, but notice how it doesn't. It almost looks like it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm shooting right in the middle.
Look at the steel and do the same thing. Transition to steel.
Oh yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, my dots on. So
And
really
if you shoot, occasionally it doesn't work for some people, like what Ron was saying, and occasionally I've noticed one of my students has had an impact shift, so occlusion doesn't really work for him, but for majority of people it works. So
I'm lazy. Like my eyes don't.
we'll find out. Why don't you try it for a bit and see what happens? So for occlusion, what I typically recommend, this is what I recommend, not everybody recommends this, 80 to 90% of your training is occluded, and then you take it off for things like matches if you want to. I did it 100% of the time. To me, it didn't bother me. I don't think it needs to be that crazy. I think it's good to be able to use the full availability of vision when it's important, but train with it for like 6 months like that, right? For me, you know that you've got it if you've done it without occluding for a while, and then you occlude like temporarily for whatever reason, maybe the sun or maybe just because you want to check it out, and nothing changes. You know, there are some people that don't like that. There's some people like Tim Herron. He will talk about occluding it very little, you know, 20% of the time, kind of thing, and that varies.
You know, I was shooting into the sun at the beginning of the day. I was seeing 3
Yep.
dots.
That honestly, occlusion is a big help when it comes to that. Does anybody have any more questions on occlusion? It does work.
Say after LASIK surgery, my eyes were bigger because one's farsighted, one's nearsighted, and it really helped me work through that.
Yeah.
That vision change. Because I'm like a cat, right? I'm looking at the dot, and putting that occlusion back on helped retrain my brain again.
It's definitely something like once you've gotten it down to come back to periodically to just make sure it's what you want it to be. Like nothing has changed, and it also gives you the advantage, like you said, when there's an adverse condition that's going to cause your dot to scatter or have multiple, like you had it yesterday, right? Where you have a faint dot from a reflection that isn't the actual dot, and you're shooting to that, and it's in a different spot.
It was hitting the light, the sunlight was hitting
Yeah.
the optic.
Yeah, it hits it just the right way, and there's another. It looks almost like your red dot. It's enough that it's going to distract. It's not as me.
So I just have like a practical question. So let's say you're doing, you know, you get up, they tell you to make ready, you pull it out, you check, right, and you're like, do you just have a piece of tape on you just to fucking occlude it?
Well, you could just have it. You can have your little tool in your pocket if you want to. I mean, I personally don't do that, but like you could have that.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you couldn't have it in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right. You know, or you could even have, like I've shot matches with it on the whole time. I just leave it on, and then if you need to take it off, you take it off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like there's no real right or wrong way to do that. You know. Any other questions you would like to address via talking before we get running? Yes, please.
I think you mentioned reloads yesterday. Is that
Would you like me to? I can go through them.
if
Yeah.
people don't mind? Like
That'd be a nice.
We've all done reloads. I get it. But I'd love to get your.
You want a little dry fire lesson on reloads?
Yeah.
Okay,
That
cool.
would be great.
You want to start off? You guys want to start off with that? Is everybody cool with that? Yep. Lauren and I were just working on that yesterday. So all right, so let's grab our guns. You can have mags. That's totally fine.
Maybe shooting, ear pro, and all that.
I think dry fire is good enough for this, unless you guys want. Huh?
Do we need
Nah, I mean as long as you're not loading, it doesn't really matter. Let me do this.
Good info in here.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely have to.